Hey Brett, how's it going today?
Good, Ange. How are you?
Good, thanks. So today we're going to talk about something that I personally consider you somewhat of an expert on, but I don't think you would consider yourself one. So now that I've given you a great riddle, can you guess what it is?
Computer fixing?
No, but great guess, because actually that was your first business that you started.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to talk about small business.
Oh, perfect.
So, yeah, actually, if you want to give maybe like a 90-second overview on how you got started with your business and what it was, I think that would be a great intro.
Sure. So we've talked about this before on the podcast, right? About how, I think when we were talking about college and debt and all those things, me and three at one point, four at another point, other guys in high school, when I guess I was 16, I was able to incorporate the business because I was the oldest. We had started just working with some friends and some family members and their friends and family members about fixing computers and installing graphics cards and troubleshooting viruses. And in that time period, viruses were everywhere. It was the Windows XP days, and everybody was having problems with their computers left and right. So it was either you take it to Best Buy, which was a fortune, or you take it to a local computer shop, which was also pretty expensive. So we were just in the market of trying to help people out and do it for fun and learn some new things, and learn about computers and websites and those things. And we ended up turning into a business because people just kept giving us money.
Right.
Like somebody paid us in a pizza one time. Somebody gave us $20 here and there, and eventually we just had like over $1,000, and we're like, what do we do with this? Like, I guess we're just gonna have to turn it into Uncle Sam eventually, and we decided to go full force into it and incorporate, and we developed an LLC and started doing computer stuff on the side. We had a couple guys specialized in that. We had a couple guys that were specialized in website development, so we started working with small businesses in the local area within basically 100 miles of where we were living. And then we did that through most of high school, and then continued to do it all the way through college, and ended up selling the business our senior year of college. So.
Which, I heard this, and meanwhile, when I was 16, I was quite literally dressing up as Voldemort and running around the mall. So, very different maturity levels maybe. But I wasn't on that path. I was I babysat for some extra money, and I worked at Mancino's, but I definitely didn't if you would have asked me what an LLC was when I was 16 years old, I would have been like, lunch, I have no idea, right?
Lunch ladies casserole, right?
Yeah, there we go. So, I think it's really cool that you were able to do this at such a young age, and it's been great for us because I met you and I was in debt payoff mode, and then very quickly after debt payoff mode, I was just in save money mode. And then it was kind of a similar thing. We just started accruing money, and I was like, let's start something with this. And, I loved real estate, and we found a good property to buy. And it was very organic again, it just fell into place, and you were like, oh, great, buying a property. I already know how to set up an LLC. I'll take, and so I feel like we've been this really cool team where you've brought a lot of the business side knowledge to it, and I've brought a lot of the number crunching, deal finding side to it. Mm-hmm. So today I just kind of want to talk about, you have these ideas, or you think you want to be a small business owner someday. What are some things you should think about? And I'm actually really hoping to expand this into a mini series where we do deeper dives into marketing techniques or business plans, etc. But I think today, just kind of maybe a broad overview conversation of, how do you get started? How do you know if it's a good idea? And what do you really need to get started? So your business, you guys probably didn't really need much startup capital because you could just go and fix computers, right?
Right. So, we didn't have really any overhead was the problem. I mean, we were able to operate out of our own bedrooms and stuff like that, or we had our friend's basement, which was the build computer base of operation. We'd get all the parts and ship it to his place, and I'd go over there and I'd time myself to build the computer as fast as I possibly could. Every time we'd get a new one. So, and then I would have to test it and make sure it worked. So,
right.
Being the fastest wasn't always the best if you didn't plug in the right wire in the right spot. But yeah, I mean, we had a large amount of flexibility because we didn't have expenses. We weren't paying for an office space or anything like that. And we didn't need it. We were able to operate the entire business using like Google Docs, basically. And it's not like we were really gonna, I guess we were an official business, but we weren't operating it like we were running. We didn't need our corporate email. We didn't need like corporate, document storage and collaboration spaces, right? We just needed like a couple documents here and there. It was just for like 3 guys. But doing all that stuff made it super easy. We were able to keep track of like our own accounting, just from like getting receipts from the people that were paying us, and tracking it in some software that we just like downloaded to test it out. And I think at one point we used QuickBooks, and another point we used like was it Peachtree? Is that another one? Or at one point we were just using Excel too. It depends on what you're doing and what you're scaling, and all that stuff can work depending on if it's working for you and you're actually capturing the right stuff officially, and you're able to look back on it and stuff. But
so I think you highlight a really great area there, and that's to keep expenses down early on, right? So you guys weren't like, we're going to be a computer repair store, and to compete with Geek Squad at Best Buy, we're going to open up a counter where people can come and drop their computers off, right? You were like, we are going to take them home, operate on them out of the comfort of our bedrooms, and we'll make house calls, right? So to me, that was a few very strategic things that kept you guys going and allowed you to, really grow this business and make money doing it. Is you didn't try to get too big too fast or sell out, or you know what I mean, like increase your overhead for no monetary gain.
Yeah, we weren't really trying to get particularly large. I mean, we were getting enough business to be steady and consistent, and we would know when we were getting too busy, right? We'd have so many calls a day. We were in college, we were like going to class and then have to run out for a call, and then go check out something, or go have somebody go meet somewhere for a website meeting or something, and then come back right for class an hour later. Our lunch breaks, and so it was that balance of like keeping our personal lives active and balanced, and then being able to do this operation at the same time. There were nights, especially in college and even in high school, where I was like up all night long trying to fix some computer thing, because the person's computer was so slow that I would have to like just do something, and I have to come back an hour later and do the next thing, just because it was taking so long to process and clean it out and just get their data off of it, if I was going to just like scrap the whole thing and get a new one because it was dying so much, right? And you don't see a lot of that again today, because some of those problems have been fixed, but they were rampant back in the days, right? So it just was a personal life balance, I think, of we didn't try and grow unless we were ready to take on that extra work. And were we going to bring on somebody new into the business? Like, we never needed to do that eventually, except for when we brought on our graphic designer, who was fantastic and helped really blow out our whole web design business. We grew that quite extensively, but the computer repair stuff, we just kept that constant going all the time, and we eventually moved into a service-based model where we could run some software on everybody's computers that would like maintain it and keep it report back to us if it was like failing, or if the hard drive was like skipping or something, or if they were getting a virus on their computer, it would be constantly scanning for that. And then we moved into a more of a support service-based model that was less maintenance for us, better for the consumer, because we were taking advantage of technology to solve some of the manual problems that we were having, and it was better for the consumer and it was better for us. So we were able to grow and do more of that because that was a little bit better for everybody.
And I would say, that's actually kind of comparable to how we've approached the real estate sector. We did need more startup capital for that, obviously, but we, have grown it at a pace that still allows it to fit into our lives, right? So we're not like running out of work and having to go, do real estate stuff. But at the same time, we have also strategically not hired out certain services yet, and we've chosen to take a lot of that on ourselves so that we can get that capital back, right? So it's very easy, especially with real estate, to hire a property manager. And a lot of people get one property, they get a property manager, and they keep living life. And with one property, it's really hard to have the right margins for that. Where property management companies start making sense is once you get, more doors. And that number could be different based on where you live and what your margins are. But for us right now, with 3 units, it hasn't been worth it to add that expense. And I think that's a common pitfall for a lot of new business owners. They get this business and they start hearing, oh, you need to, spend a lot on marketing, and you need to get a better building, and you need to get all this new stuff, and you need an accountant, and it gets really expensive. So since you were an entrepreneurship major, have you kind of looked into that? And do you have any answers for people starting out on like how to decide where their money should be going? Or is that kind of something that they really need to be looking at line items and questioning everything early on?
Yeah, as an entrepreneurship major, right? Because that was what we ended up going to college for and continuing to run the business. Two of us did that. Two of us were in like the marketing and advertising field through the college that we went to, decided to stay together and do that in college. I'd say it's very, very important that you be well-versed in a lot of different topic areas. So as the entrepreneurship program that we had covered a little bit of everything that the entire business school curriculum did. Like we knew everything that we needed to know about marketing. We knew everything we needed to know about financial accounting for businesses, right? Like every semester was a different thing, and we were just pulling from different resources throughout the school. And at the end of the year, we had this project in one of the other like marketing classes or something, or just some random class. And it was about building this business around selling this camera, and you could design the camera in different ways. Like you could make it really expensive, or you could make a cheaper camera, or you could move the components in and out and make it more balanced and set your pricing of what you were going to do. And then there would be this exercise that they would go through, and it would basically mock like a stock market or a sales event where certain things would happen, and the team that had the most amount of money, or the person that had the most amount of money at the end of the day, like got like a certificate or something. And there was actually a competition associated with this that you could choose to go to if you were like the best in the class. Turns out I was actually the best one in the class because I had the entrepreneurship background, and I was like, this is everything that we do anyway. Like it's a little bit of marketing, it's a little bit about putting the financials together, it's a little bit about doing customer analysis about what they're going to buy. Like there was like a couple things here and there, but I was just able to look at the word problem and say like, I understand the rules to this and how this is going to operate, so I can game the system and just win. Right. And like me and like there was another kid from the entrepreneurship major, and one other kid in a different class from the entrepreneurship major. We all did the best. It was just like across the board. We beat all the marketing kids. We beat all the other kids from the other majors. It was just, I just thought that was an interesting like tidbit. But
yeah.
Being on top of, I think the accounting is, whether you're good at it or not, it's your responsibility. You should not offload that to somebody else. You can bring in an accountant to do like tax time for small business accounting, depending on how complicated your stuff is. We did use a pretty expensive accountant. He was a good guy in town. He was able to find like a lot of different areas for us to save money because he knew how to game the tax system, right? And even as like somebody that was familiar with the tax code, and we did small business like tax planning as part of our major as well, so I knew how to do that, but not to the extent that he was like, you can get this for this, and you can like, if you just phrase this a different way, then you can like pull in this other money, right? So he was able to save us like a ton of money at the end of the year. He was an expensive guy. I think it cost like $1,000 for him to like review our business taxes or something, but he saved us a ton of money by doing that. So, that is one option and opportunity. It may be worth looking and doing that, but you need to keep track of your own numbers yourself and be aware of what that is. Don't offload that to another person. As the owner of the business, you need to be on top of that. So one, you don't hire somebody into your company that potentially takes advantage of you, because that happens all the time. You might not like want that to happen, or like think somebody's capable of doing that, but it does happen to a lot of small business owners. And then at the end of the day, they're like on the hook for everything, because this person just like kind of walks away with either they took some money or they were doing some stuff under the table that they shouldn't have been, and you're legally responsible for that stuff.
Yeah. So, another question that I have, so don't offload accounting, but, I've talked to some people starting a business, and they offload writing a business plan. Now, do you think that you should hire a consultant to, write your business plan or help you with your business plan? Or do you think like, if you can't come up with your own business plan, maybe this isn't for you?
So, and this is around, my business plan. The purpose of a business plan is, one, to be able to take it so you can get financial backing at like a bank or, some kind of other form of lender for some startup capital or to invest in something heavily. But the primary purpose for you as a business owner is so that you fully understand what is in your mind about your business and how it's going to operate, and you thought through all these things. They don't care what your business plan is necessarily. They want to see that you have thought out all the different pitfalls that you could run into in this scenario, and that you have a plan to work around some of these things, or that you've thought about it enough that if something else comes up in this scenario, that you'll be able to react to it, and then you're not just going to leave them hanging right and behind dry because you were like, oh yeah, this little gadget is going to just make me $100,000, but you didn't understand the manufacturing process, or you didn't understand that there was no demand in the market, or you didn't know how to scale your business after you sold 2 units, you didn't know how to sell the third one, right? So there's, as components of a business plan, there's a marketing strategy, there's financials in there that you need to be thinking about. What are you going to sell it for? How much is it going to cost to make it? How much does it cost to ship it? All that stuff is baked into that. It's really important for you to go through that, even if it's at a high level in all the other categories, and then drill down a little bit into each one. It doesn't have to be like, this written document that is like the Bible that you follow every day about how you run your business. It's just making sure that you understand everything in the first place. And it's a like the entrepreneurship major I was talking about earlier. It's a little bit all the different topic areas, so that you don't have to be an expert in each one, but you have to know what you're going to do, and it's your plan. We always say make a plan.
Right.
It's the plan for your
That
business.
is actually our family motto.
Yep.
Stick to the plan.
Stick to the plan.
Which implies that you have a plan to stick to. No, so that's really great. And so, for somebody like myself who didn't do an entrepreneurship major, what's the best way for me to go about, obviously people who don't go and have the same background as you can still start and run successful businesses.
They do it all the time.
They do it all the time. So, I kind of think the best thing you can do is read, right? Read everything you can get your hands on, listen to podcasts or audio, videos of people doing what you want to do, that get as much advice as you can, right? Be a sponge. But, I also think a lot of research needs to go into it.
Yep. You need to know your competitors. You need to know what other people are doing in the market. Has anybody made the same product before and failed? Or does somebody have a patent on it if you're going down that route, the more scientific route? If you're interested in starting a business but you don't have an idea, there's also a lot of scientists out there that are not interested in starting a business but have great ideas, or engineers, right? And these guys, if you there's a whole business sector basically that is not really that popular and most people don't know about, where you just take a business person that has really good business acumen, networking, knows what to do and how to sell products, and you partner them with somebody like a Steve Jobs basically that knew how to build everything and was really passionate about it. But then,
Steve Jobs was probably the marketing one, and then Steve Wozniak was
Steve Wozniak, yeah,
right.
Steve Wozniak.
So,
but that relationship.
Yep.
But then Steve Wozniak has also turned into this amazing guy as well. But an engineer that doesn't like to communicate, doesn't like to come out of the garage where they're working on projects. Find somebody like that is able to. Is a genius. And we had a guy working on our website that didn't like meeting with clients that much, but he was a fantastic web designer, right? And he could do stuff that was amazing in no time, and his ideas were great, and
still does amazing stuff. Yeah. I think you're actually wearing an undershirt.
I think he designed the shirt.
Still a great guy that you've been able to keep in touch with and still doing amazing things, right?
Yep.
So and so I think that's kind of important too, is if you're thinking about starting a business, start networking. Even before you get your business launched, or even before you go live, you're still allowed to go to networking events. You're still allowed to say that you have a business. And, I think for me a little bit, I kept saying oh no, I'm not a small business owner, even though we have this real estate business. And, one day it finally hit me no, I am a small business owner. This is what I'm doing on it's not my day job, but it's my evening job and it's my weekend job. And so it kind of finally hit me one day that even though we've built it very slowly, so it hasn't felt overwhelming, we are to the point where it is definitely a functioning business, right, on its own 2 feet.
And a lot of people are in that scenario where they just start doing something, and with our computer stuff, we're doing something, and we're hey, we're running a business, I guess. Right. Or hey, I have this Etsy shop and I was just putting stuff out here to see what would happen, and people are buying my stuff like crazy. We talked about that on another podcast, right? So you can do anything today. Technology is really enabling people to start small businesses very easily.
Yeah.
Right.
But I will say that it takes a lot more planning and thoughtfulness than that
To be successful.
To be successful.
To get it from the 1% up to like the 10% mark, right, of that
and
business.
you know, we've started things that were fairly small scale that we could do small scale. But you know, I always use this as an example because it still breaks my heart to this day. But there was this amazing restaurant in Lansing that always had a line out the door. He had really good food. It seemed like he was checking all the boxes, but he didn't have the business sense. So he was employing like way too many people behind the counter to, you know, seat people, because it wasn't even like full wait staff. You know, you ordered at the counter, and
It was a small place too.
yeah,
For
I
that
mean,
many people working there.
I think there were probably 10 tables, and there were probably 5 waitresses. You know, I mean, it was just kind of like, whoo, you know. So, you know, I think sometimes you talk to people and they have this great idea, but without a plan and without a way to execute it, how many, you know, maybe you have the stats, maybe it's okay if you don't, I'm putting you on the spot, but do you have an idea of how many businesses don't actually get off don't survive a year?
It's the majority, for sure.
Okay.
Most small businesses that start up probably fail, and that's because they don't think it through, or they try and start a business without a business plan, or certainly within the first 3 years. Usually that's kind of the benchmark of the make or break. There's like tax implications, whether you can report losses for 3 years, and like, so there's a lot of shell companies that just like start up and take losses for other people.
Right.
That's a whole thing in and of itself, but that may be, you know, weighting the statistics a little bit. But I see a lot of people, and we've seen a lot of people like restaurants and local merchants and people that think that they have a great, you know, product or idea, and they try and turn it into something, but they don't scale it well, or they don't know how to grow it, or they don't know how to market it, especially to get it to that audience. And then they end up just like closing their doors because they've wasted more money than they're making.
And I think, you know, another thing I see is, one, you know, wasting more money than they're making, and maybe not having enough startup capital to really go, you know, dive into something. But I also see a lot of people not realizing how much work goes on. So, you know, I think some people think, oh, if I start a business, I report to myself and it'll be a more flexible schedule. And I would say that's probably not true. You probably have to work a little bit harder, especially early on, to get your business up and running and fully functioning and operational.
Definitely. You are your entire workforce. You will work more than 40 hours to operate your business. You will work more than 40 hours when you start it. You will work more than 40 hours when you operate it and if you have employees later, 10 years down the line, you'll probably continue to work that business for quite a long time. I mean, you are the responsible party, so it's not just about doing the job, it's about doing all the back end work and all the accounting and making sure it's all running correctly. And if you have employees, you're doing all the payroll stuff, and right there's a lot of systems now today to like help optimize some of those things. But you're not going to be able to hit that until you get to those economies of scale,
Right.
like we talked about with the rental unit. You can implement all the processes that you want to just for that one unit, but you don't start seeing economies of scale until you have a bunch more, and it becomes really useful and economical to use those tools. Otherwise, you're just using a cannon to kill a mosquito.
Right. And yeah, I think there's something to be said for making sure you start small and grow organically. So don't feel like you have to do it all right away. Don't feel like you have to do everything. Do what you do really well and grow from there. And I think there's something to be said for businesses who kind of go that route instead of trying to, you know, again, going back to the barbecue that place opened, they're good at meat. They serve meat. And they don't dress it up. You know, you go in and you order the meat you want and you get the side you want and that's it. But you know, they're not trying to be an Outback where you can get steak or you can get a million other things. They're trying to be like, we just make really good ribs, you know? And so I think there's something to be said for kind of starting where you're at and doing what you know and doing it really well and building up before you kind of expand and go crazy. Well, great. I think that, you know, covers most of what I want to talk about with this intro topic. I'm definitely going to throw the ball back to the court of our listeners. And if any of this piqued your interest, if you're interested in hearing more, please let us know. Please shoot us an email or leave a comment. You know, we always drop our contact information below. And we have a YouTube channel if you just want to leave a comment. But we kind of want to know, like, is this something our viewers are interested in seeing more or hearing more about? We definitely have, you know, experience where we could do deeper dives into, you know, some of these subjects or, you know, other subjects that small business owners would be interested in. So if you are interested, let us know. We'd be happy to do that. Other than that, if you like what you hear, subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, or YouTube. And we look forward to, having you join us each week to keep you on track for your financial journey.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.